Okay, so Be'ez Hashem, today we are going to start talking about a topic. I think it's going to be Be'ez Hashem, a fascinating shir about that. We're continuing after we learned the whole concept of pikuach nefesh regarding the chiyuv of pikuach nefesh to a nochri. Today we're going to talk about chilul Shabbos for a nochri, and I do not want to go down to the level of Shomer Shabbos residency or something like that. That is a sugya by itself that every individual, we have to deal with it with every individual by himself. But this is something that everyone in the medical field, as Hashem, if he is a doctor, will have to deal with it, at least in the beginning. Otherwise, as Hashem will have a schus to become a successful doctor that they'll give him off right away on Shabbos. But it's an nafkamina, we'll see, not only for being in a hospital, it could be an nafkamina in times of crisis or something like that, or something that happens near your house or someplace that you're there and you have to give services. So let's talk about it. So the Gemara says in Maseches Avodah Zarah, the Gemara before that, the Gemara says that it says in the Mishnah that you're not allowed to treat a nochris. Why? So the Gemara says there, the Mishnah says there, because if you're miyaled a nochris, you are helping for Avodah Zarah. So the Gemara says there, the Gemara asked, we found in a brisa that you're allowed to. So the Gemara there says the difference is that it's b'schar. So says the Gemara, Sover Rabbi Yossi Sprung, oidude oivedes kechovim b'shabso b'schar shori mishum eva. So Rabbi Yossi understands from the previous Gemara that because of eva, and eva is a dangerous thing that can happen, that goyim will do terrible things of hate because of the hatred, and you are triggering it. If we want to explain what is eva, so the Gemara says, so Rabbi Yosef understands that's why you are allowed b'schar to assist a Revedes Kechavim on Shabbos because of eva. Says Abaya, no. Maybe you could tell her didan de mintere Shabbos mechalin olayu ditchu de loy mintere Shabbos mechalin olayu. Says Abaya, comes with an original excuse. Says Abaya, listen, I have an original excuse that we could find a way out to get out of treating a nochris on Shabbos, that you could tell her that we only help people that are Shomer Shabbos, people that are not Shomer Shabbos, I don't help. Does anybody think today this would be accepted? I don't think so. Right? Says the Gemara, Anuke b'sovar b'sef lemeima, Anuke b'schar shorim shum eva, Amar le'abaye choylo lemeima, ripnu yohibo, ino nintzuve, yeshivas shelo yikol mizdame v'ape gavra. Another here is regarding feeding a baby of a nochri. So the Gemara here also says that maybe Rav Yossi says it's mutter to do that, b'schar, and then Abaye also gave different excuses how to get out of it. Either if she's not married, that no one will want to marry her because she feeds non-Jewish babies, or if she's married, her husband won't like the cut. Whatever. These are them. But what do we see here in the Gemara? We see in the Gemara that whenever there is eva, so you are allowed to treat oivdei kechavim. Says Tosis on the spot right away. Meaning, even according to Rav Yosef, and even according to Abaye, in a case of eva, so it's mutter. Abaye just found excuses how to get out of the eva. But if even according to Abaye, if there's no way to get out of the eva, we understand that that you could treat the non-Jew because of Eva. Says as Tosfos Hoiko Eva Shari Heicha Sharim Shumeva Milsadi Space Sura Doraisa Damri in Perik Shmon Shrotzim Hoishit Yodan Meiveim Bedil Delu Bolshebe Chai Mishumay Kirdovo Migiduloi. As Tosfos a question we see in the Gemara in Shabbos Daf Kuf Zayin that helping that basically helping an animal to give birth is what? An Iser Doraisa of Goizes. So you see that word here. What are we talking about? We're talking about being a midwife for a non-Jew. And these are Isurim Doraisa. So as Tosfos what? Mishum Eva, you are allowed to do also Isurim Doraisa, meaning Tosfos understood that it cannot be that what Rav Yosef and Abaye said that Mishum Eva is allowed on Shabbos includes not only Yisurim Doraisa, that includes also Yisurim Doraisa. Answers Tosfos Shloimar the Hocha b'yeshivas ala mashber shekvaneh karlotze isina mikeva dekol chadosha poskim viduloi. So Tosfos says that we're two cases, either because she is yeshivas ala mashber, she's already sitting on the bed, and it's in a level that the fetus is almost outside or is on the way to go out. So then it's already an Iser Derabanan because it already uprooted from its source, or because once it's ready, Tosfos says, meaning that Koluloi Chodasha, the complete pregnancy, it's already not considered told of Goizes, what the Gemara wants to say there. So anyways, what do we see from Tosfos? That Mishum Eva is allowed only in Isurim Derabbonim. The Ritva on the spot argues on Tosfos, and he says, Shari Mishum Eva plus b'dvorim she'ein bohem chilul Shabbos ve'afilu b'shel divreim. Says the Ritva that we allow that we allow Mishum Eva not regarding Chil Shabbos, meaning regarding Chil Shabbos, even if they're Rabbonim, you're not allowed. The Pshita de Mishum Eva lo yisharina na pilushvus v'divreim chas v'sholom. Ay, v'od omar Rabbi Yochanan lemeimar ditchu de lo yimintero Shabbos lo yimechalin alai u'Shabbos milso be'almehu. Says the Ritva that stam thing. The Mukmin leimar shaftiltum shetina kesh b'chil Shabbos. So the Ritva, and I did not bring the whole Ritva, but the Ritva basically holds that even the Rabbonon Mishum Eva is Aser in Chilul Shabbos. But when we talk about other Isurim meaning not Chilul Shabbos, then the Ritva would say that Isur the Rabbonon is Mutter. So in the meantime, what we saw in the Gemara that Mishum Eva is mutter, Tosfos says only on Shabbos, only Isur D'Rabbanan. The Ritva, even Isur D'Rabbanan is Aser, and what it's mutter is only Shar Isurim, meaning not on Shabbos. Look at the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah in Siman Shin Lamed says very interesting. Beda, she'aroifim bezmaneinu afilu hayoser ksherim eino mizorim bazeh klal. The Mishnah Berurah, the Chafetz Chaim, is giving us a Musar Shmuz. And he says that you should know that even doctors in our time, he means to say even Shomer Torah Mitzvahs, doctors that are Shomer Torah Mitzvahs are not careful in that. The Maisim Shebechol Shabbos Shenoisim Kama Parsois the Refuas of the Kerchovim. Every Shabbos, right, they travel a few parsois, a few miles, meaning even though he means to say they travel even chutz l'tchum, and according to part of the opinions that is the Yisur D'Oraisa, the koisvim v'sheichakim samemanim be'atzmom, they write and they prepare medications by themselves. Ve'ein lohem al neshi smochu, says the Mishnah Berurah, they don't have on what to rely. Even if we are going to say that it's mutar chal Shabbos v'isur derabanan mishum eva ben oivdei gibulim af degam zei nebor ein beprim begodim isur d'oraisa bevadai osur lekule alme ubechal leShabbos gmurim bemezid Hashem yishmerenu. In the meantime, we see that the Mishnah Berurah is a big machmir in that, and he says, I don't know on what the doctors that do Isurim D'Oraisa, and they take a wagon or a Model T, and they go right far away to treat in different places, and today easily wherever you go, right, easily from in a lot of hospitals are michutz l'tchum. So this is what the Mishnah Berurah is very machmir. The Divrei Chaim, very interesting. The Divrei Chaim also brings that, and he says, "V'nidon sheilato imutar l'rofei Yisrael lechal Shabbos le'eino Yehudi." So he says, "In as a poshut," and he brings all the achronim that it's only mutter to do the Rabbonim, but the Rai says it's not mutter. But if you look in the end of his tshuva, v'chen bevada yesh le'achmir, ach, says the Divrei Chaim, aminag beroifim shemekilim. But the minhag is mekel also. But the minhag is that they're mekel the shamati. Says the Divrei Chaim shu mitakonas arba. Says Arotzois. What is Arba Arotzois? Arba Arotzois, Takonas Arba Arotzois is like, for example, the concept that we have today, the Rabbanut HaRashit Israel. Okay, the Beis Din of London, or the whatever, the RCC in America, meaning a rabbinical council that decided, and this Arba Arotzois were four from Poland and one from one of the Russia or something like that, one of the places there, Bratislava, I think, I'm not sure exactly, but that was a rabbinical council that used to get together, and he says it's a takana from them, and this has to be understood. What does that mean? A takana, we're talking about Isurim D'Oraisa. They cannot make a takana that Isurim D'Oraisa are mutter. So we will try to understand that. Until now, what we learned is either it's Asur B'chlal or Isurim D'Rabbanan is mutter. From now and on, I'll start bringing you sources that even Isurim D'Oraisa is mutter. Okay, Mishum Eva. Let's start seeing, very interesting. Nafsha from the Chasam Sofer. Nafsha ayofa b'sheyosei be'eretz tugar pakad asar al kol anshe hayarot v'kfarim להזכיר להם מילדות תקיעה אשר למדה לפני חכמיהם בבית מדרשיהם, ואפילו יש להם חיות פיקחות מכל מקום צריכות דווקא להזכיר להם אותה שעמדה בניסיון לפני חכמי הרופאים. So meaning, there were two types of midwives. There were more simple ones, and there were midwives that had probably some medical, more meaning that they had more of a medical background, and they were Bifnei Chachmei HaRofim, they were certified by certain doctors. There are a few, okay, small villages that did not find non-Jews, and there were only meaning they were ones that were on call, and the ones that were on call for those villages were a Jewish woman, the midwife, the Shaluah Shoel, Im Rashai La'askir Atzmo Lohem Ben Bechol Ben B'Shabbos. So the question is also on Choil, why? Because the Mishnah says that Israelis should not be meyale Oivedes Kechavim. And what's with Shabbos? So then he brings the Gemara that we saw. Okay, he brings the Gemara there, and then he brings Tosfos that says that it's only in the Rabbonim, and in Shulchan Aruch Yeredeya, Simin Kuf Nun Hey, he brings there, Adidim the Shabbos Lechol, Apal Gav the Hosh the Shabbos Kfar Maiselo b'Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Siman Shin Lamed, meaning in Orach Chaim that's the halachis regarding Hilchos Shabbos, but the Shulchan Aruch decided to bring also in Yoredeya and Siman Kuf Nun Hey that talks about the dealing with non-Jews, and also in Siman Shin Lamed. Mikol Makom Podal Kosa B'Ilchos Avodah Zarah HaRambam the Maaseh Hach the Shabbos Perek Beis the Hilchos Shabbos Mikol Makom Tom Olav HaKesef Mishneh by time Eloi Maaseh Lehod the Shabbos Gam Shom B'Ilchos Avodah Zarah. Okay, V'Hine Perek Beis Shabbos Kosav HaRambam also, meaning why didn't the Rambam bring it there? V'Hine Perek Beis Shabbos Kosav HaRambam the also loided b'Shabbos afilu lekech chilul Shabbos v'muchach mishas Avodah Zarah daf chobo amud aleph k'mo shekosav tois shom kosav olav hakesef mishneh. Why? Says the Rambam, why are you not allowed to treat a non-Jew? Mipnei sheyechoilo lishomet v'loimar sheyesh b'zeh chilul ad kan l'shoino. There is some excuse that you could say, meaning you have a way to get out of this Eva, of the situation of a Mevuar Milashoino Zeh. The Lav Mitam Chilul Shabbos also. Doim B'Chilul Shabbos, Elo Mitam Megadel Ben Avodah Zarah. The Kevon the Motze L'Ishtamut Ve'Lat L'Yisakum Ve'Lo Yimar Sheyesh B'Chilul Shabbos, meaning since you could make up and tell her that we have a Chilul Shabbos, but not really that it's Chilul Shabbos, but just make it as an excuse. So therefore, he says that we made also mishum in ken echad de lo yishach kidul ben avodah zarah kemo shekosav leel yesh belav harbe bekiyos sheyolidu oto mutar gam b'Shabbos moken delekech chilul Shabbos tahaynu time the ma'aser shulchan aruch hilchos avodah zarah. Anyhow, this is this is the Chasam Sofer. Then says the Chasam Sofer. I skipped a few lines here. Now he comes to say like this, to cut the biblical cord, that is l'chura and isur d'oraisa, shu melocha d'oraisa, meaning whenever she has the situation that she could have a non-Jewish assistant, so that is a malacha d'oraisa, she should tell the non-Jewish to do it. Listen to this. But if all this that I wrote now is not negeya, and this could really lead to a situation of sakonas nefoshes, says the Chasam Sofer, yesh lehatir afilu melocha d'oraisa. Here will allow even a melocha d'oraisa. Afal gav de beloshim mogen avom sof siman shin yud and siman shin lamedalid mashma de dafka kibui de have melocha shein tzricha legufa hutar veloy melocha gmura. He wants to say that maybe it would be allowed only melacha shein tzricha legufa, because that already takes it down to a melacha de Rabbonim. Miu ayin beiruvin memdalad abubeis nasishin u'ma shekosav olav shiltei giboy rishon miroy lehege afilu melacha d'oraisa utar im efshar bilada. Says the Chasam Sofer, if there is no way to get out of it, and it would cause a pikuach nefesh, clearly you could treat them even by meloches d'oraisa. Interesting. I'm telling it to you now because I'm not sure we'll be able to cover everything. One of the shittas that want to explain the heter of treating non-Jews on Shabbos use this excuse of melacha shein tzricha legufa. And they say the following, that the pshat is that the whole thing, why am I mechal Shabbos? Because of pikuach nefesh, right? Eva. If I won't treat them, so some Jew in a different place will be hurt. And therefore what? So that is considered to be melacha shein tzricha legufa. For example, if you have somebody in Hilchos Shabbos, if somebody does avodas karka in a karka she'enoi sheloi, That is considered to be melacha shein tzricha legufo, right? In certain cases. Why? Because I don't need it, I don't want it. So the same thing here. I'm not doing it for the sake of the melacha. I'm doing it for the sake of sakonas nefashis. So maybe that will be considered the melacha shein tzricha legufa, and that will take down every melacha you do to a derabbanon. Okay, that is a big chiddush, and it could be argued. I'm just bringing it to you. There's another Chasam Sofer. Now, this Chasam Sofer that we spoke, okay, talks about Nechura in an individual that has to be Michal Shabbos. Here, the Chasam Sofer, and again, I didn't bring everything. Ve'achal shezachinu ledin ma nechzer ma dekamon hine mevuah b'shulchanoch b'yoredeh b'siman kuf nun dalet tziv beis de'oludei b'Shabbos v'schar osur. Why? De'leko evo mevuah b'tois avodah zara de'leko elo isur derabbanon be'alma. We saw all of that. Umikol bokoim kevan de'leinin chilul Shabbos leko evo osur v'imkein ochenami ve'oid nireli. Here you see words of the Chasam Sofer. Ubetoises perek haboine kuf gimel Amud Aleph says there, right? Upshita deloi nichalei hocho v'gam kvar nekar avlad yeshivas al hamashber v'afilu ochi osu v'ze lo shen Rambam. Okay. Here he says like this. Omnom kanal. This is only talking in a case where there isn't only Eva. So therefore what? He could say all the excuses that we saw in the Gemara. And now the Chasam Sofer is explaining to us. ויוסיפו שנאה ותחרות ויאמרו כי דומוי שלא יבדק רחובים קל בעינינו. What is Eva? He's explaining it. They'll say and they'll explain that we don't care about the lives of Oivdek Rechovim ולא יקבלו תירוצים. No one will accept these answers, the Minterei Shabbos, so they won't accept this answer that we save only Shomrei Shabbos. Ve'oid berova mekomes haroivim em goyim. Yutar be'einem doman shel Yisrael. The non-Jewish doctors will treat the Jews not in the right way. Ve'ulei b'shas tabin lo yomru elo b'yemeim. Maybe this Gemara that is clearly says that even Mishum Eva is not so clear that it's mutter. That is only in their days. But where did the Chasam Sofer live? He lived in Pressburg in Europe, where Jews and Goyim lived together, and he understood what does it mean, Eva. חילוק זה בעבודה זרה דף סבוב עמוד א' דיבור אמרתי אימו לחלק בין ימיהם לימינו וכן כוסף הראש לעניין נוסס ונוסס עמוהם. Okay, and he brings here a whole list of things, and then he says ואין בתס שם ספקות נעלה וגדולו מזה הכירו בכיבוד ליכה Okay, and there he says, after I just want to try to cover as much as we can. So therefore he says all these things regarding turning off a fire. So also there it could cause evil. Okay, so I'm skipping that. Alkei nireli. Look at the end here. Alkei nireli deimyei shum choyli betoch yud beis mil lo yisa leachoyli shechutz leyud beis mil. So here, this is very, very, very important. Even though the Chasam Sofer allows, but the Chasam Sofer says that you should be alert and you should try always to minimize and to meaning. For example, if you have a call and you have a call that is a Rabbonim, take the call of the Rabbonim, and then you have a great excuse that you're busy with this call, you can't go to the second call. That's a great excuse, meaning that fact that of the excuses, meaning getting out of it, that is important. Don't forget. That's what the Chasam Sofer says. So therefore, if it's in Toichat Chum, take that one. Umikos kenim eschori somuk v'koro tfei me'alpayim amo. Lo yisa afilu chutz la'alpayim amo. V'kal v'chomer, בבנוי של קל וחומר, אם יש שני חולים בתוך העיר, שלא יזוז במקום כלל, כי ננסה לומר, I can't leave. Why? Because I'm on call here. I can't go someplace else because I have patients here. Meaning, always be alert. מכאן מפני סכנה זכותי ולפני הקדים לזמן אותי לצורכו ולא אוכל לגרוע אומנותי בהתנצלות. This makes sense. כי אין שום סכנה ואין דבורים המתקבלים על לב ושכיח טובה אצל רופאים המתארחים לבוא משום חולי אחר שקדם לזה, ומי אפשר להתנצל בשום אופן. But says the Chassam Sofer, if you don't have any excuse in any way to get out of it, so you should take a horse and buggy of a nochri, ולא יסו נוחי שם לא יסחורוי ויעלה על הגלה בשעה שהתחילו הסוסים לעלות, וכשיניחו להטיל עליהם ירד מיד ולא יעלה עד אחר נסיעתם. Meaning, don't sit because you have different isurim. Going on a wagon, there's a few isurim besides going out of the tchum. There is Gzeir D'Rabbanan Shemo Yitloish. There's a few Gzeiras D'Rabbanan that are involved in that. So when there is a stop on the way, get off and go on only when it's needed. So in the meantime, we saw the opinion of the Chassam Sofer in two places that says that even Isurim D'Oraisa, whenever it's dangerous, it's mutter. And here we saw another svara that maybe the Roifim Goyim will treat the Jews in a very in a bad way also. That is also considered to be a evil. And this brings us to an interesting topic that Be'ez Hashem we're going to learn about it, and that is the whole concept of what is considered to be pikuach nefesh bifoneinu. Famous Noida Biyuda that a lot of the Lomdim heard about, that pikuach nefesh dechakalater kula is only if it's bifoneinu. If the chayil is bifoneinu, there's a chazonish. There's a lot about it. The question is, here in the Chassam Sofer, he says it as a dover pasha, that if you'll treat the doctor, if you'll treat non-Jews, and they'll have a feeling that their blood is not important in front of you, so they'll treat you also like that. Meaning, the Chassam Sofer understands that this is something, this is tragedy. This is something of life. This is not stam a case of one-on-one, that if I now treat someone or I don't treat someone mishum eva, so right away somebody has to be in danger because of that. He broadens the scope and he looks at it that it could be that if you don't treat in Brooklyn, so somebody in China could die because of that hatred. Not stam, because of that. And when we say, for example, we would not say on something that is in front of us here, that's befonenu, but something, for example, medical research, we would, right? That's the original question of the Noida Biyuda of doing medical research. Okay, here he's talking about someone that has that died because of stones in the bladder. Okay, because stones in the bladder, and the question is, can we treat him? Okay, can we do an autopsy in order to see the reasons? And says the Noida Biyuda, that's not considered to be befanenu. The question that comes up, right? Yeah, but today in modern medicine, There is some case befanenu in China, or we're such a big world that maybe if I do a Isser now and I am over on this, it would be considered pikuach nefesh because it's befanenu, because somebody needs it. So that's why that is a sugya that has to be learned by itself. But I'm just bringing it as an example that you see that the Mishum Eva, the Chasam Sofer said, if that would be clearly understanding that they would treat us differently, that is already considered. And I think that is clearly understood for modern days. And the more the world becomes more advanced, the more Mishum Eva applies. Because with media, things could fly from one side of the world to a different side of the world in seconds. There's the Igrei Smoshe, Moshe Feinstein. Again, I did not bring the whole tshuva. So that's the first part where Moshe learns, and I recommend everyone to learn this tshuva. So Moshe says there that a doctor won't, even though he has to be Mechal Shabbos, but he won't come to be Mezalzel b'Shabbos, and that is a concern of every doctor, at least in the beginning, that he feels, if I have to work on Shabbos, what is going to look my Shabbos? How is my Shabbos going to look? So he says here, now he goes, and I'll answer your question. The question is very clearly, how could one treat Oivdei Kechavim? In United States, that would not be accepted, says Ramosha. That's for sure not. And it won't be accepted in anywhere, meaning not in any ministry of the Ministry of Health or anywhere, and not in the media, and not by people. It's not going to help him. Right? Meaning, imagine to yourself if a doctor today says such a thing in middle of his shift, right? Says Ramosha, that won't be accepted. And especially if there isn't somebody, a different doctor. Meaning he could literally be considered a criminal. Right? What's called residency. So that is in the days of Rav Moshe was shaykh to change Shabbos with Sunday. I don't think we're holding there today. It's not so easy anymore. לשבת ורופאים הנוכחים יהיו ביום השבת. ואני יודע שהרבה רופאי שומרי תורה מצוות עשו כן, cute, nice, that's halacha lemaisa, okay, in part of the cases, but not in most cases. אבל שנזדמן שהוא מוכרח להיות שבס בבית חולים, או שהוא כבר רופא קבוע, אף שהמשרד שלו סגור בשבת, even though his office is closed. What happens if a nochri comes to him? The office is closed. He's home, but the nochri knocks on the door, and you see that he's having a heart attack. Right away, even he served the rice he have to do. Remember, I said at the beginning of this year, you have a terror attack in the world that we live today, right near your house, and you know clearly that there is all Oivdei Kechavim. you can't go and close yourself in the house. Why? Because they'll find out. People will find out that there was a doctor here. מאחר שלא מתקבל במדינתנו הדיחויים שאומר אביי הוא סכונו ממש, גם בעצם לגוף וממש בקרובי החולה, וגם אם הוא אינו חושש שתהא סכונה לו בעצמו, יש לחוש לאיבו גדול לו כל כך מאנשי המדינה, וגם הממשלה שיש ודאי לא חוש גם לעניין סכנה מתוצאות זה, meaning like I said before, even the outcome that could come out of it, not an immediate outcome. Shom says that you can't be right משומי באיסור דאורייתא, כיוון שהמצב בהיותנו בזמן הזה היא כיצד איבו סכונו גדולו אף במדינות שהרשות לכל אדם מישראל להתנהג בדיני תורה, שהוא על כל פונים שלא יקרה שעל ידי זה לא ירצה להציל נפשות. ופלא על הגויין חפץ חיים that wrote the Mishnah that I brought you in the beginning of the shir. So Reb Moshe, that's Brisk Manenu, says clearly that an Isur D'oraisa is also mutter. I once heard, together with Rav Asher, from someone that told us that there was a nurse that lives in the Shomron that was treating in Shari Tzedek a triplet of Arabs, and she knew Arabic, and as she's treating the babies, the father is sitting there with a stupid smartphone and looking at it, okay, and he's telling his wife, hey, there was a shooting now in Beit El, and it looks like there is some serious injuries there. Wow. And she said she was in the middle of treating those babies, and she finished what she had to do, and she went to the other room and she started to cry. Meaning, if she would stop what she has to do, it would be even more dangerous. And it's very, very hard for her. We could understand that. But we have to understand that they don't need a big trigger, okay, to find, we don't have to give them the excuses in order to do some terror attack or something like that. So as I'm saying this is no nafkamina if it's in America, England, Australia, or Eretz Yisrael. This is an nafkamina everywhere. That Ava is something very, very, very dangerous, and you have to understand. But don't forget that wherever you have that opportunity to get out of it, and it makes sense, meaning not the excuses of the times of the Gemara that make sense then, but don't make sense today, that is, so therefore use that. It's interesting that in the Gemara there, in Daf Chavav Amud Beis, where the Gemara there says that one of the excuses are that I'm on the way to a court case, or whatever the Gemara means there, a court case or some meeting with the authorities, today it could easily be checked, right? It's not always an excuse, right? Something that could be checked if it's public information, you have to be careful. Today, Be'ez Hashem, okay, Rabbi Moshe goes on and on. I'm going to end this year with a very interesting tshuva on this topic from Shut Maranash. But this Shut Maranash that I'm bringing you was Reb Nissen Shidla, and why did I bring the shar of the Sefer? Because when I heard share this topic from Reb Asher, he also brought this shar of the Sefer, and the Maranash, Reb Nissen Shidlov, was in the times of the Noida B'Yehuda. The Noida B'Yehuda quotes him a few times in the Shut, and here also in the Shut he brings tshuvas that he had with the Noida B'Yehuda. So you're talking about over 200 years ago. And here, very interesting, he says, this is not him himself, but it says, Michiburei HaRav HaMuflag HaGoyen, Moreinu HaRav Rav Nissen Shidlo, Ben HaRav HaMuflo Rebainish, זקן וכל החוכמה ויושב בשבס תחכמוני לא ימוש מועד של תוירו ואויו מסגבר כארי להילוחם מלחמתו של תוירו והרו גוידל חריפוס ובקיוס ושס ופוסקים ואחרונים זכוס היוגן עלינו וגם העמדנו בסוף הספר הנוגויס איזה חידושים and here it says נגמרה תוקוסה בעזרת השם look at the Anova here יום ד' חס אלו טוב שנס טוב קוף פי א' ממש 200 years right על ידי ישבר מידס חרש מהשכל and unfortunately they wrote it but it wasn't published until when הספר הנ"ל לא זכה להיות נתפס ועתה יש יש לעיין על ידי יצא לאור על ידי רב פנחס הירש from Montreal. This is the chief rabbi of Montreal that passed away around 20 years ago, even less than 20 years ago. And he is the one that brought this sefer. So we're talking about someone in the times of the Noida Yehuda. So let's look at this. This question was sent to 3 of the talmidim, great talmidim of the Noida Yehuda, and we don't have the year, so obviously, but this is after the tour of Noida Yehuda, Rabbi officials of Rabbi Yehuda Ayash and Rabbi Yaakov Ginsburg. And he says the following story happened to me. So the doctor came over, meaning far away, at least a mile, meaning one of the Asrara means the chief, okay, meaning an important figure there is sick. The non-Jewish doctor here thinks that he could help that whatever, let's call him, I don't know, the poets, okay? עליו ללך לשם בהגנה מאחר שהדוקטור עצמו אי אפשר ללך מכאן שצריך להיות אצל יושבס על המשבר ומקשה עלינו. So the non-Jewish doctor is sending him because he is in the middle of treating a woman that is giving birth. ובהשקפה ראשונה לא רציתי להתירו. So first I did not want to allow him to go עד שנאמר לי כי הדוקטור עומד בחוץ באזורה. The doctor is standing outside of the shul and is yelling his head off. And he says that if you're not going to allow him to go, I am going, I would assume just for the story that is the Ministry of Health or something like that. Okay, Reb Ephraim Roifus says, שעל ידי זה יכול לבוא עלילה על כלל ישראל חס ושלום. ועל פי זה הייתי מתירו לעמך. So, Reb Nissen Shidlov allowed him to go. על ידי הגלה רק שיראה שלא יעשה מלאכת דאורייתא. But I told him not to do מלאכת דאורייתא. כשבאתי לביתי, אמרתי לעיין דין זה after I allowed him to go. I said, let me learn the sugya. בהשקוף הראשון לא מצאתי היתר בדין זה לחל שבס אפילו חוי לנוחי אפילו באיסור דרבנן. מכל מקום בדין זה שפר אורייסי. I want to tell you, in this case, I think that I gave the right psak. No, the Isa the Shasu poskim and the Shulchanov Siman Shin Lamed Tziv Bet. Aku men meyai de oiso b'Shabbos afilu b'dover de leker chilul Shabbos de leker evo sheyocholoi mar de mi she'ein b'Shabbos Shabbos ein mechalin lo because of Magen Avraham. Okay, and he goes through the whole. So again, we don't have the time to go through this. And then he says the following. And then he says the following. Here he says the following. As we learned today in Shir. Then he says, listen to this. I told this doctor, you hear what he says here? I told this the Rabbi Ephraim don't come again with these type of questions. Rabbi Ephraim, listen to this. You have to know. This is a rule. אם לא יכול להישמט ויראה שיכול לבוא מזה שום סכנה, ילך. If you see that any sakana will happen, go. ואם לאו, but if not, don't go. כי ידעתי שהוא ירא שמיים מאוד. Says Nissen Shidlov, אמנם הרופא לא ניחלה בזה, the doctor wasn't a happy camper and he wasn't willing to accept this, רק רוצה להציע לפניי בכל פעם, גופא דעובדא. No, he wanted the privilege of asking the Rav every time he would have a question. ועל כן ממטותא מנייך ומרונו ורבונון, או אהבי כאחי, meaning he's asking these three Rabbonim that Rabbi Ephraim is going to come again, so I need to know my stuff. Please help me. And he's asking them, באשר ידעתי אתכם שאתם אוהבי אמת, לחקור על דין זה ולדעני, הן על העבר אם יפה הוריתי, did I do something right, והן על העתיד, כי לפי הניוס דייתי, נראה להתיר. Okay? And if you look at the end of these tshuvas, they all here in the end he says, you see, ובזה נראה דעו הדין ברופאים במקום שאינו יכול להשתמט עצמו, בשום עניין מותר לעשות כל מה שהוא מן הצורך, נלך בדרך אפילו בעגלה, נראה דעתו לפי העניין, אם מוסר חשוב בעניין שיכול לבוא חס ושלום קלקול היהדות, נראה שיש להתיר, ועתו בקשתי הרמה from you people. So listen to this, and we're ending with this. So everyone there writes whatever his excuses why he took him time to answer, but he says there, if you look there, they all were mitzaref to his tshuva, and they all said that it's mutter to do that. So if we want, here he says, עיינתי באיגרת הרב המופלא, והשקוף הראשון ראיתי שהשתתח, right, בכל שדות ההתר שיש להמציא, ביופי אוירו. Okay, they were all makel, and they all allowed to do this to his heter. They all were mishtatef in this heter. So if I want to summarize what we learned today regarding the sugya of mishum eva in other things, meaning b'yamei hachoil, is more kal according to most of the poskim. B'mei Shabbos, as we saw in the sugyas Tosfos, says the Rabbonim is mutter, the Ritva says even the Rabbonim is Asher. The Halacha L'maaseh poskim manenu, starting from the times of the Chasam Sofer going on, we saw that even Isurim Doraisa, and all of that is just because we know that the danger is there. And poskim manenu were makel even in Isurim Doraisa, but remember, even that you know that Isurim Doraisa are mutter, wherever you have a way to get out of it, either al yedei, in a nice way, giving a non-Jewish doctor to do that procedure, or whatever way to get out of it, it's good, but only if it's not going to cause Ava, because Ava is very, very, very dangerous. Thank you, and if anybody has questions, I'll be happy to answer.